Ladies and gentlemen, oh my gosh, that ending. I was not expecting that. How's it going, everyone? This is Slam with another video or film or whatever, reaction, review, and all that type of stuff. This one, we're going into Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. The new Netflix show, in consolidation with Edgar Wright, the director of the film, which is I'll get into later. Also starring basically every single person from the original film. That is correct. Even Chris Evans makes an appearance in this film somehow. I don't even know how that was swung. Also Brie Larson, which you would think that she wasn't really going to be involved with this, but she is. So is Chris Evans, of course, Michael Cera, Kieran Culkin. The entire cast and crew from the original is back as voices in this anime-inspired show. Now, is this anime? Well, we'll get into that too. So before starting this, I just want to say that I went into this show absolutely, completely blind. All I knew was that it was animated. It took a lot of source material from the original comic series and all that, and the entire cast was coming back, even Chris Evans and Brie Larson, yada, yada, yada. You know, I've already sung this song. Now, to be fair, I have also never read the graphic novels. I intend to. I'm getting into Sandman, actually, so be prepared for some, little reviews on those types of things. But as of now, I haven't necessarily been diving into the Scott Pilgrim stuff. But I do know that I guess the film was kind of a departure from the original graphic novels and all that type of stuff. The graphic novels, I guess, dived a little bit further into, Scott Pilgrim's life and all that type of stuff. But I gotta say, if you haven't seen this film, you have to. It is absolute gold, okay? It is like the best comic book movie. It is the best video game movie. It is the best anime live action movie combined into one amazing film. And yeah, it is absolutely spectacular. And also on top of it, a lot of stars actually showed up that before their big, huge, gigantic blow-ups like Audrey Plaza. And I'm not going to sing the cast and crew again. We've all heard and seen that. But anyway, the film is truly spectacular. So I was going into this pretty high in standards and all that type of stuff, but also realizing that, it's a show from a well-beloved comic and a well-beloved film, and but I don't think both these things are going to really translate into the show quite a lot. I mean, here's the thing, right? It's a Netflix show. I mean, sometimes they make gold like The Crown or Stranger Things, but other times they make complete and utter garbage like that stupid Blockbuster show or that stupid Fuller House show, which is just an embarrassment. But anyway, I didn't know where this show was going to go, but I wasn't expecting it to be, all that well told. I thought it was going to be basically just a ripoff of the comic book. So I didn't necessarily have to read the comic book necessarily. It was just going to be more accurate interpretation on the comic series. But oh no, it's not. In fact, it starts out that way. You think it's going to be beat for beat the same thing as the film or the show, or no, you're going to be the same thing as the film or the comic series or anything like that. And once again, I didn't read the comics series quite yet, so I just figured any expansion or anything, it will probably be just something from the graphic novel or something, or maybe something original. But oh no, this show is absolutely nothing like the movie or the graphic novel series. Well, actually, there are a few similarities, but it takes an entire 180 for the better, in my opinion. I did not expect this to happen, where Scott Pilgrim actually dies. Also, spoiler for the first episode of this series, but yeah, Scott Pilgrim dies. I did not ever expect that to happen because the whole show is called Scott Pilgrim Takes Off from the graphic novel series Scott Pilgrim. So I figured, oh, okay, well, this is going to be just a regular old show. This is going to be beat for beat, probably the same thing as the film, or maybe beat for beat the same thing as the graphic novel series. No. It takes a complete 180 for the better. Now it's its own entire thing, which I gotta say, I'm all in. I was in before because I'll mention other things before I mention the big huge twist again, but I'm all in now. Let me just say that I am all in now. So the first thing I gotta say with this whole show, or at least this first episode, in my opinion, is at least the art direction, which is basically just ripped off the pages of the source material, the graphic novel, which I gotta say it's just absolutely spectacular. These character designs, the animation, it's beautiful. It's like an anime video game come to life. I actually need to be more specific. It's like an anime 2D like arcade platformer game come to life. It's amazing. I can't believe that nothing has... I can't believe I haven't seen anything like this before. It is absolutely just breathtaking. Maybe I'm just uncultured. Maybe there's something else out there that's similar in style, but I have never seen anything like this. It is so beautiful. The colors themselves are just eye-popping. And even though it's like, you know, what we saw in the original film with like Toronto and all that, where it's very dingy, very snowy. And I gotta say, I live in Detroit, right? And Detroit's very close to Toronto. And I went up to Canada many, many times. And I gotta say, they got that right. They got the crumminess of when it's winter. They got that part of Canada right. But I gotta say, Canadians, okay, Canada, it's a great country. Not saying that, but I gotta say, when it's snowing, it's very dreary, honestly. And they captured that perfectly in the film. And in this show, it looks crummy, but it also looks very vibrant and lively. It's very bizarre. You wouldn't... Maybe it's just my connection to the film for me seeing it and all that, but I don't know. It just looks dreary and bright and cheerful at the same time. I can't put into words exactly what that is, but it's very bizarre, but all in the best ways, of course. The music, at least in my opinion, it's a little bit better, I dare say, from the film to the series. I don't know. It's like I can actually hear it this time, like the lyrics. I can actually hear what they're singing in the lyrics instead of just like having a overall expenditure of the I don't even know, the microphone, I guess, or something like that, like the reverb. And while I do enjoy the music from the original film and all that, I don't know. It's just this one seems like the songs in this episode, at least, it really works. I don't know. It's just a little bit better. I like it a little bit better. I can listen to this songs and this album if they have it, which they probably will. I can listen to this a lot more than I would the film. And I can't believe I'm saying that because I would listen to the film as well, but I'll probably listen to this album from the show a little bit more. It's very interesting, to say the least. Once again, this whole show is very, very interesting. Now, it's also interesting, and one of the reasons why I just was attached to this show to begin with was because that Edgar Wright is kind of attached to this show and, you know, executive producing, which doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, but the entire cast from the original film is back in this show, which is surprising. I don't know how big of a role Brie Larson or Chris Evans will be in this particular show, because Brie Larson's like an Academy Award winner, and she's in the MCU getting huge paychecks, and she's now in the Fast and Furious saga, which she's also getting huge, checks from that. So who knows what her checks, how much money she was going to get from this show to be in the show, and how much she's actually going to be in it. I don't know. It could be a lot. It could be less. I don't know. More than likely it'd be less. But yeah, also Chris Evans is also returning, which I was dumb shocked that Chris Evans would be in this too, because he's, Captain America. You wouldn't expect Captain America to be in this to begin with either, because he also has a very high, he also has a very high money ordinance he has to go through and all that. So yeah. But apparently they're more involved than I previously thought, because Brie Larson makes her first appearance in episode 2. I didn't even know she was in anything until, like, I don't know, maybe episode 4 or something. But yeah, they're completely reduxing the entire storyline from the original film and the original comic series even, which I gotta say, thank you. I mean, it's almost completely original now. They are doing their own thing, which I gotta say, very interesting. Gives me hope for the overall series. Now, here's the thing. I was going into this show just off the top of my head, just going into it, just like, okay, I got some time to kill. I don't really need to just pay attention to this a whole lot. I'm just gonna, I don't know, watch this, just chill out, whatever, and see where the show kind of deals. And then I was watching, it was like, oh yeah, the animation is really sweet. It's like very video gamey, very anime-esque and all that. And yeah, okay, something I expected. But then all of a sudden, Ramona's first boyfriend that she dated and all that in middle school, which they also still have that same little thing in there. They saw the same explanation and storyline from the first boyfriend and all that. He just wrecks Scott Pilgrim in one punch, and Scott loses, and Ramona wins, the first boyfriend wins. And I was just like, what? Wait, what? What happened? Oh my gosh, what? This? Okay, I'm in now. I'm invested now. Because here's the thing, and this is something we're kind of going to be diving into a little bit. Not a whole lot, because they don't really give a whole lot of stuff to say about this particularly in the show right now. And that is Scott Pilgrim, who's like in his early 20s, granted early 20s, is dating a high schooler, Knives. That was pretty controversial in 2010 when the film came out, and even controversial when the graphic novel came out. So they kind of made a little bit of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink, or whatever in this show where they were actually dating, which I guess they changed it a little bit, where Scott and Knives aren't actually dating. Knives thinks they're dating. I don't know. I honestly can't even tell anymore, because who knows? This might be a delusion in, I don't know, Knives' head now. It could be. I don't know. But yeah, anything's up in the air now, because Scott is actually dead. I watched the first I had to watch the first 5 minutes of the second episode just to see, oh wait, did they actually kill Scott? And they're at his funeral, and then Brie Larson shows up, and I'm like, oh wait, Scott's actually dead. What the heck? Whoa, okay, here we go. Okay, I'm in. Let's do it. But yeah, I just gotta pop in to like talk about this because it was just, I was dumb shocked. And I don't even know why. No one's talking about this really. You know, I haven't seen anybody really talk about this online. I'm not really on Twitter anymore. I'm on YouTube, but I haven't been seeing a whole lot of the cartoon people that I follow talk about this. And I'm just like, why isn't anyone watching this show? Wow. Okay. But anyway, though, what do you guys think? Is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off accurate to the source material? Of course it's not. But what do you guys think? Is it a great adaptation or is it not? What do you guys have to say on it? And comment, let me know. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids coming your way. And hey, take care, guys. All right, here it is. Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, episode 2. And by George, it is even better than the first one, I gotta say. Now, as previously mentioned, I did watch a couple minutes of the second episode for, like, you know, episode 1 and all that. So I'll just dive into that a little bit. But yeah, apparently Scott Pilgrim is in fact dead. And it kind of picks up with the, you know, characters kind of reeling from that. And oh, by the way, spoilers, of course, spoilers all around. But yeah, we also get Brie Larson's debut episode, which I did not expect her to show up in episode 2 of 10. I thought she would be more toward episode 8 because, you know, you got to maximize your Brie Larson and bigger stars, you know, screen time and all that. But apparently she's in episode 2. So I wouldn't expect her to show up in many other episodes up until maybe episode 8, I guess. But who knows? I could be wrong because also apparently Chris Evans is in this episode too. So yeah, we're on topsy-turvy levels of just absolute craziness these days, specifically with this show. So, I mean, everything's out the window. Anything can happen in this show. Scott Pilgrim died. Chris Evans is in episode 2 of this show when I thought he was going to only be in 1 episode. But yeah, he's got a more bigger role in this show than I previously thought. So yeah, here we go. I mean, it's all wacky-do shenanigans. Am I complaining, though? Absolutely not. More Chris Evans, more Brie Larson, the better. And especially in this show, too, and all that, you know? But apparently, as I'm kind of watching this show, something kind of was jumping out to me more than it was in the first episode. You know, even though this show is called Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, and, you know, there's a lot of people from Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and there's a lot of people, you know, it's based on the comic book series Scott Pilgrim and all that type of stuff. You know, Scott is directly the main character of this show or of this whole series. It's really not about Scott anymore. It's more about other characters, which I'm not necessarily against. I know some people may be against that because it goes against, you know, the main focus of this entire series, which should be Scott Pilgrim. But you know what? We got a whole film and we got a whole comic book series dedicated to Scott Pilgrim. If you want to have a show focused on the rest of the characters, by all means, you know? I mean, you got to flesh out the show somehow, you know? Got to make it more distinct, got to make it more, you know, its own thing. Having it focus on the characters, you know what? You do you, show. You do you. I really don't care. In fact, I really enjoy this take because it's more, at least this episode is more focused on Mary Elizabeth Winstead and her character of Ramona and what happens after, you know, the first Evil X kind of destroyed Scott Pilgrim, which, and all that fallout, which I gotta say, it's pretty intriguing. I didn't think, actually, I've never thought what would happen if the first Evil X actually destroyed Scott. And apparently the first Evil X takes over, the League of Evil X's and all that, and leaves Gideon, the last Evil X, the big bad. He was going to kill him, but instead he suffers a fate worse than death. He's got to see his entire empire be handed over to the first Evil X. I gotta say, that's very intriguing. That's very interesting. Also, the big, huge fight between, Gideon and the first Evil X. I keep on forgetting his name. I think his name's Patel, but I don't know. I'll remember his name as the show goes on, but and all that. But anyway, that whole thing was actually pretty interesting because at first I was like, okay, I don't necessarily care who wins this fight because they're both evil and yeah, whatever. But as the fight continued on, I was kind of like taken aback because I was actually getting progressively more and more invested in the fight. I don't know. It's very, very weird. A very weird sensation that I was feeling here because I didn't necessarily want Patel to take over Gideon's huge thing, and I kind of wanted them to go back to the main story, which I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I guess it meant change and all that type of stuff, more change or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. And when Patel actually took over, I was like, oh shoot, okay, well, here we go. That being said, I still enjoyed the animation. This one, I would say it's more in line with like the video game aesthetic with the fight and all that. It's more of that, like a little bit more video gamey than others. And then at the very end, it's more anime. But the first fight was more a video game anime hybrid. This one, I don't know. I don't know why. It just I kind of felt like half of it was more video gamey. Maybe because it was more like a two-place game player type of arcade thing. And then the rest of it, saw multiple angles and all that type of thing, kind of like an anime fight, whatever. I don't know. It was less seamless than I thought it was, like with the first episode and all that, but it's still good. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's different. It's very different, but the animation's still on point. The voice acting is spectacular. I also appreciate the jokes more than I laughed at them. Like, for instance, they're burying a huge casket, but it's just 3 coins that they're burying. I thought that was a little funny. I also kind of just liked the fact that, Scott Pilgrim's death, at Scott Pilgrim's funeral, there's a big, huge concert, like a big huge Brie Larson concert that's being played and all that, and everyone's just cheering and hooting and hollering, and the only one that's really just down in the dumps is kind of, Ramona, which is kind of interesting to say the least. You would expect that Ramona was a little bit more, standoffish, but it kind of gives a little bit more context as to, whether or not Ramona actually liked Scott, which turns out there was a lot more to the Scott and Ramona relationship than we all previously thought. She didn't just, enjoy his company. She actually, savored his company, if that makes sense. Like she actually looked forward to him as, they were hanging out and all that type of stuff, like the little bits that they actually did hang out, she actually really, really enjoyed that. And she's more crushed than, she would be if, I don't know, Gideon actually was dead or something, At least in my eyes, this is what I'm kind of thinking about. But, I don't know. It's whatever. Also, there's the little thing at the very end was like, oh, Scott's alive, because she had a dream, the same dream that Scott had and all that. And I was like, oh, well, okay. Which that is, I don't know about that, because you built this whole series now on the fact that Scott Pilgrim is dead. And there's a whole different chain of events happening. But now Scott's alive. I knew Scott was probably going to come back because the show is literally called Scott Pilgrim. It's like having Masters of the Universe without He-Man, Masters of the Universe Revelation. I knew He-Man, He-Man died, spoiler alert, but he did come back. I knew he was going to come back. I don't know how, but I knew he was going to come back. At least they, did that. They brought him back, halfway through the whole run of the show. But this one, episode 2, oh yeah, Scott's alive somehow, somewhere. I gotta find him. That type of thing. It's very, very weird. I don't know. I hope he doesn't necessarily come back in episode 3 out of the cold blue somehow. I don't know. But yeah, the show's still great. I hope they don't go down that rabbit hole, but whatever. Still a great show. Fantastic animation. I dare say it is anime. Come get me, you anime fans. I think this is anime, just like Avatar: The Last Airbender's anime. So, yeah, whatever. But anyway, though, guys, that's all I have to say about this episode of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. What do you guys have to think or say about this? Whatever you think or say, comment and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids come your way, and hey, take care, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Episode 3 of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, a.k.a. Ramona Rents a Video. Yes. Also, a little snippet that I forgot to mention in the other episode reaction reviews and all that type of stuff. They changed it a little bit. They changed the origin story of, the first Ramona and Scott kind of hang out or whatever. Or maybe I shouldn't say that. The first, or the second actual thing and all that. Because, at least in the movie, and what I expect is in the comic as well, Ramona is not a Netflix DVD deliverer. She's an Amazon deliverer. She delivers packages from Amazon, which is not as glamorous as it is these days. I mean, it was a life-changing thing or whatever, and now it's kind of life-changing the other way. But anyway, yeah, I guess Netflix kind of did that because, they're big, huge... One of their huge competitors is Prime Video, and Prime Video is, associated with Amazon and all that type of stuff, so yeah. But is that necessarily a bad change? Absolutely not. It kind of gives the same point across, except instead of an Amazon package or something just random, it's a Netflix DVD, and yeah. Which kind of builds the universe a little bit too, where Scott actually rents a Chris Evans movie, the Chris Evans character. I forget his name. But why do I bring all this up now? Well, it's because there are still movie rental stores in this universe. I guess it's not supposed to be taking place in the, modern day. It's supposed to take place in early 2000s, late 90s type of deal, which is fine. It's all good. It gives off that really great aesthetic, I don't know. It gives off a cozy aesthetic, in my opinion. But unfortunately, that's where the critique kind of comes in a little bit. Not necessarily with the 90s aesthetic, but with the, where I thought this show was going to go all along, up until, when I finally figured out Scott is dead. This is where Ramona is actually dealing with her exes and all that stuff, which is, yeah, I kind of expected that. It's not really a life-changing thing or whatever. It's just kind of, this is where it gets a little predictable. But to be fair, if, I'd rather have my own person dealing with the exes and how toxic they are rather than another person coming in to deal with my exes and all that stuff, So this is a better interpretation, at least in my eyes, where, she deals with her exes her own way instead of just, dealing with it through Scott and letting Scott deal with it and all that, And all the while, she's looking and seeing who killed Scott because she believes one of her exes killed Scott, I guess. So, yeah, it's kind of like a murder mystery now, which is not necessarily what I was expecting with Scott Pilgrim. But then again, it's a reinterpretation, and you know what? I'm here for it. I'm still here for it. It's a little negative, but still, it's been done like this for many, many times already. I've seen this done many, many times already, but then again, I haven't seen it with this animation style or this story being told specifically. So, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as I'm kind of expecting it. I was just hoping it would be somewhat, more extravagant, I guess. I don't know. And also, to be fair to the show, they actually started to flesh out a little bit more of the backstory with most of the characters. Like, for instance, the video store shop, worker and all that actually had a semi-relationship with Scott. And Scott kind of dropped the ball on that. And yeah, she's just been living her sort of life as it is today and all that, which is kind of interesting, It's like, even though Scott sees Envy, or aka Brie Larson, as his one and only toxic ex, he actually has a lot more, which is kind of interesting, It deals with a lot more mental health and a lot more, putting your mind into the eyes of other people than the original Scott Pilgrim did, which I gotta say, I like this interpretation specifically, there's more than meets the eye when it comes to, other people and how we take relationships and all that type of stuff. I also like the giant fight that Ramona has with the first ex she's gonna fight, which is not Dave Patel anymore. It's actually her, that, I don't even know how to really say this without being canceled. Don't cancel me, but the lesbian that she had for a while at camp, that's her first fight. And you know what? I gotta say, it's really inventive and very interesting. They actually go into all these movies and stuff and fight in all these movies, which I gotta say, I'm here for. That's inventive, that's kind of interesting and all that stuff. And on top of it, she doesn't kill him, in the movie, and I guess in the comic series, if I'm remembering correctly, the Scott actually, kills her exes and all that stuff, their coins at the end of each and every fight. But Ramona actually works it out with them, or at least works it out with, this one person, and something tells me this is going to be the least toxic of any of her type of talks that she's going to have with everybody, because every other guy seems very, very extremely toxic. But I don't know. She worked it out with this one woman that she dated for a while, and yeah, I gotta respect that. All right, I guess spoilers now for this rest of this. Spoilers for the rest of this. More prophetic spoilers and all that. So apparently, Scott isn't dead. He was kidnapped and was forced to, I guess, I don't know, I guess an ex is faking his death for some reason, and Ramona is going to try to find out what it's all about. And Yeah, it's a slight twist on the murder mystery whodunit type of deal, but still, it's, I don't know. Anyway, I think the fight in between all the movies and all that stuff, I think that's the second best part of this whole episode. What I thought was the best parts and what made me smile, and maybe this is because I'm a movie guy, a TV guy or whatever, I really enjoyed young Neil writing a screenplay. I don't know why. That was just absolutely hilarious. And his sleep demon or something actually wrote it, and he just woke up to it and was like, oh yeah, here it is, I guess. So there you are. I just found that to be absolutely hilarious. I don't know what the heck went on with that. I assume it's going to happen. They're going to explain it at the end of the series or whatever, but it's just wonderful. Just a cherry on top of the beautiful Sunday that is this episode. Also, I like Knives actually, doing something other than just pining for Scott, which is what her character was in the movie for the most part and all that, This time, she's actually helping out in, songwriting with the main person in the band, Steven Still, that's his name. But yeah, they're actually working together to make songs and all that. And you know what? I'm down for it. I don't think it's going to go into romantic territory like Scott was with her. But I just like friendship. This seems like a very interesting, a boy and a girl can actually just be friends and be creative together and all that. And I like it. I like where this is going. But yeah, this episode seems very less shock of just how awesome it is, and it's just kind of settling in. And you know what? I'm all for it. I'm all for where this show is going to go. This show seems to be pretty decent. I would say that this episode is maybe not necessarily the best that this show has kind of had so far. I would say episode 2 is probably the biggest one in my opinion, maybe. But still, this show it's like comparing, I don't know, The Godfather Part 1 to The Godfather Part 2. They're both still great, but I would prefer Godfather Part 1 over Part 2, at least in my eyes. But anyway, though, guys, that's all I got for this episode. What did you guys think of this episode? Does it rock? Does it suck? What do you guys have to say? Comment, let me know, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids come your way, and hey, take care, guys. Ladies and gents, we are here. This is the Chris Evans episode entitled Whatever from Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. We all knew this episode was coming where they would be totally focusing on Chris Evans because, hey, why not capitalize on your Chris Evans when you have him, I mean, I would if I had Chris Evans in any of my projects, but hey, I mean, Chris, call me, whatever. Be that as it may, I don't think I actually talked about this in previous episode recap and reviews or whatever. I mean, I talked about the score and all that, but I haven't really specifically talked about the theme song. Now, just allow me a little tangent while I gush about this theme song because, oh my gosh, this theme song is just amazing. Very, very heavily anime inspired, and I mean, it's sung in Japanese even. So, yeah, I gotta admit, it really, it packs the punch as it needs to be. I mean, the only other recent theme song that I even can think of is the Peacemaker, TV intro song, like the theme song and all that. Like that was really awesome too. But yeah, this one, I gotta say, this one's catchy and it gives you a lot of warmth and all that, It's similar to how I feel with Cowboy Bebop, the Cowboy Bebop theme song. It's just so immaculately amazing. I can't explain it. It's just Japanese theme songs are just amazing. And I would assume that this was Korean or Japanese inspired. So, hey, good going. Good work. Thank you for that amazing theme song. All right, back to the rest of the review and all that. Here's the first thing. I really, really enjoyed the whole beginning part of the whole thing, like the beginning part of the whole episode, where we actually learn more about Chris Evans' character, who, by the way, is Lucas Lee. I keep on forgetting his name, but I'm going to keep on saying it until I get it. Lucas Lee. Okay, here we go. Lucas Lee. He's actually heading toward rock bottom. His star is plummeting, and he needs to get this movie made and all that type of stuff, because all of his career is basically plummeting. So this is the one thing that's going to shoot him back up to stardom and all that, which gives a lot more context to his story. It's actually pretty, interesting and kind of adds some layers to his character. It's kind of unreal. But anyway, what would the movie be, though? What would the movie be that Lucas Lee has to star in order to get it, or get his stardom back high? Yep, that's correct. It's the Scott Pilgrim versus the World movie, where he plays, oh, you guessed it, Scott Pilgrim. This is just comedic gold. I absolutely adored this part of the episode. It was just absolutely hilarious. For all those who don't know, and maybe some of you will think I'm either old or cringe or whatever, I don't care. My favorite series of all time is The Office US. It's just, I just love that show. I don't know why. Every time I pop it on, I just laugh. I know it's not necessarily popular anymore, but I mean, I don't care. I love the show. Sue me. But anyway, this reminded me a lot about The Office and like the little behind the scenes type of, overhead shots that they use, like the little interview things that they plug in and all that. And I get it. That's not what they're referencing. Technically, they're referencing, behind the scenes documentaries of most movies, especially the movies back in late 90s, early 2000s, which is where I believe this show is supposed to be taking place in, especially the early 2000s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, just the fact that young Neil just, I guess, all of a sudden has this gigantic project, and people are ready to greenlit this movie in order for this movie to be made and all that, just out of sheer coincidences and out of the cold blue, just makes it absolutely hilarious. Because I've worked a little bit in the movie industry myself, and I gotta say, it is absolutely not like that. I wish it was, but it's not. So just the fact that you got someone as big as Lucas Lee or whoever in this universe in this film and all that is absolutely hilarious. And the fact that everyone, there's actual like gigantic movie studios actually wanting to make this film too. It's kind of funny. It's really hilarious. And Kieran Culkin's, character, Wallace Wells, the fact that he's so amazing that the only actor that he's going to be allowed to portray him is himself is absolutely hilarious as well. I don't know why. Wallace Wells was just kind of whatever in the first, the movie and all that, but I don't know what it is, but this series is kind of giving me a little, I don't know. I'm starting to fall in love with his character, as is a lot of other characters in the show, but still, not in that way, but still, it's this character is just becoming one of my favorites, and I have absolutely no idea. What they did with him was absolute gold. Also, young Neil. Young Neil is shining brighter than he was before in the film and all that. I don't know why, but for some reason, I didn't really care for young Neil in the film and all that. I totally forgot his name, but, this movie's kind of making me remember a lot of young Neil as the series goes on and all that. I mean, it's the only thing I have to say is he better graduate to Neil at the end of the series. That has to happen. I also liked Ramona, kind of being her stunt double, which is actually kind of interesting. She can't be the star, so she might as well be the stunt double, which she can be, I guess. I think she mentioned that she was a stunt double a couple times. I don't know, but yeah, this is kind of where Honestly, this is kind of where the episode falls a little flat, a little short, for me at least. It's just, the same type of stuff kind of happening. It's basically the same old, It's not kind of diverting from episodes previously, or the episode previously. It's just the same, kind of the same thing. Ramona kind of goes into this ex's world and all that and tries to talk about Scott and try to decipher this mystery and all that, which is, it's fine, it's whatever. Oh, like the episode, whatever. Yep, exactly. Yeah, I planned that. Yeah, I totally planned it. Anyway, though, the episode's fine. The actions, same, on par with all the others. The whatever song, it's more punk than I would kind of expect it to be. I don't know. It's not really rubbing me the right way, I guess. I don't know. I've been with all the music up until this song, whatever. And I don't know. Maybe it's just too much pausing. Like, there's not a lot of music. It's just a lot of pausing, which I get. It's a little punk, but still, I would rather it go throughout, like, they're screaming at the top of their lungs, yell whatever, and then they pause, It's just kind of whatever to me. And that's another, just another reference to the thing. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, but yeah. Chris Evans obviously does an amazing job. All the voice actors do an amazing job as well. The one weird part about this is that we get very, very little Scott. I mean, we got a lot of him in the first episode, to be fair, but up until this point, there's been very, very little Scott. And I get it, right? He's dead, but at the same time, you would kind of expect some more Scott to be kind of shown or whatever here. Maybe a little bit more of a, flashback or something, but I don't know. It's fine. I'm not going to do that again. It's fine. The episode's doable. It's still a great episode. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I've expected a lot more from this show. Like, this show, like the first episode, just shot through the stratosphere for what it could be. And now it's just kind of, it's just kind of the same old, which is still good. It's just not as surprising or whatever. Oh, okay, I said it again. Or, anything like the first episode. Then we got the portal with the vegan, the guy with the vegan and the Brie Larson and all that. So they're going to be in the next episode. So yeah, that's going to be wild. And I've seen that episode. And yeah, that gets very interesting, to say the least. But anyway, though, guys, that's it for this recap and reaction review of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, Season 1, Episode 5, whatever. There's a lot of great skateboarding, but, that's really just about it. But what do you guys think? Is this episode good, or is this episode better than the first episode? Is it worse than the first episode? Whatever you guys think, comment, let me know, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids come your way, and hey, take care, guys. Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to another Scott Pilgrim Takes Off episode recap and review. Lights, camera, sparks. You gotta put that in there. But anyway, I honestly thought that I actually, did this episode recap and review, because I remember talking about it quite a bit, but apparently I didn't. I think it was in whatever. I kind of got those two sort of mixed up a little bit, because both these episodes have the movie creation here, but I guess this one's a little bit more memorable, because this one's the one that's got the whole Wallace, having sex with the vegan guy and all that, and having like a little fling there, which again, I gotta say, is absolutely hilarious. Wallace is the GOAT in this whole show, I gotta say, just absolutely spectacular. And yeah, there you go. That's basically it. This whole episode is kind of, sort of whatever, as said previously in the other episode, whatever. I don't know. This episode, other than that whole thing, it just didn't really fly for me. I don't know. This might be the worst one in my opinion, because other than Wallace Wells, kind of taking matters into his own hands, if you will, with Todd and all that type of stuff. The whole episode's kind of forgettable, in my opinion. There's just a big, huge focus on this one thing, which is absolutely hilarious. But then the rest of it's kind of not really worthy of note. It's kind of bizarre. I don't really know what else to say about it. The animation is great, as per usual. The music's great as well. I don't know. This one's the one that's kind of filler, in my opinion. None of these episodes necessarily feel like filler up until this particular episode. And this is the episode that we kind of figure out after, kind of by elimination, I guess, who exactly is the killer, or quote-unquote killer of Scott and all that, So, yeah. Not really a whole lot to say on this particular episode. I do like the film and all that type of thing, and how it kind of just collapses in on itself. It's actually kind of hilarious and all that, but there's not really a whole lot really to talk about with this particular episode. It doesn't really go a whole lot one way or another. It's just this one great this one great joke, this one great storyline with Wallace Wells and Todd, but other than that, it's basically it, and it's kind of sad if you really think about it. I mean, Todd's kind of an ass, but also he loses his vegan powers because, Wallace kind of coerces him to do that, which is kind of interesting and kind of hilarious, but still, it doesn't grab you, except for that one thing, the whole episode doesn't really grab you necessarily. It kind of just meanders off a little bit. It's kind of, as said in the previous episode, whatever, I suppose. And that's basically it. That's all I really got to say. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say about this particular episode. I mean, there's more to say about the next one, which is when we finally figure out who exactly did it, what kind of happened and all that. More developments are kind of happening and all that. So, I guess that's it for that. I don't know. The animation is great. Music is still wonderful. The theme song's fabulous. I mean, I'd really be, what? I kind of will be just repeating everything I said on the other things. This one's just kind of the worst one, in my opinion. It's not necessarily the best, or not necessarily, bad by any means, but it's just kind of filler. It's the most filler episode I've seen this entire series. But anyway, though, guys, that's all I got to say about this episode. I'm sorry that there's not a whole lot to say about it. What do you guys think? Does it rock? Does it suck? Is it filler? What do you guys have to say? What do you guys have to think? Comment, let me know, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids coming your way, and hey, take care, guys. Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to another Scott Pilgrim Takes Off episode, recap and review. This is the Who Did It episode. And yes, this is the one that kind of picks up where the other episode was kind of left me a little bit kind of wanting. This one really bumps it up a little bit, gives it kind of does a complete 180, if you will. It just raises it up a little bit. What do I gotta say on this one? Well, we get more Gordon and Julie type of deal here, where Gordon's just kind of depressed, You know, Gideon, he's kind of depressed and all that. He befriends Lucas. They kind of mend their ways and all that. And actually, again, very interesting. This is more of the philosophical type of stuff that, you know, this show has been, you know, kind of cultivating over the course of its series run. And I'm really enjoying it. You know, they're kind of, I guess they're kind of mending their stuff. They're not really friends, but they're also not necessarily enemies either. They just make their peace, and I like that. You know, this is kind of what people do. This is what people do. They don't necessarily. A lot of times, they don't necessarily become friends or whatever at the end, but they just make their peace, and I like that. You know, this is very good. It's very, very nice. 2 thumbs up. There you go. Anyway, so Ramona confronts Julie about Gideon and all that, and then we figure out, Gideon's not necessarily the one that did it. So we find out it's the twins. It's the twins that now the thing is, this is the most convoluted, weirdest thing ever, where they make a robot. The twins make a robot that is vegan and uses vegan powers and sucks Scott Pilgrim into the future. And that's just, oh my gosh, that's chef's kiss. Chef's kiss right there. That's so creative. It works. It absolutely works. I gotta say, good going there. Honestly, if they put that in the comic, that would not be out of place. They really, I would not have suspected that. Let's put it that way. But anyway, absolutely gold. But anyway, apparently Knives and let's see, who's that other guy? I keep on forgetting. Steven. I keep on forgetting his name. I don't know why. It's just that one guy. Anyway, Steven and Knives have slowly becoming, like, you know, kind of fast friends. Like, clearly platonic, no romantic interest whatsoever, which I gotta say, nice touch. Very nice. You know, guys and gals can be friends, and it shows with this. And, once Scott is out of Knives' kind of periphery there, Knives is kind of a musical genius almost. She kind of, you know, starts to really gain her footing on life. And I gotta say, it's a nice touch. I mean, they even convinced Matthew to, you know, instead of, young Neil, I guess, they turn Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life, you know, that's supposed to be a movie, into kind of a play or a musical with their music and all that. And I gotta say, you know, this is actually pretty interesting, you know? I mean, it's kind of, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is kind of, or I can't believe I'm saying this, what am I citing here? But Scott is technically the villain of the whole movie / show, you know? Or the whole comic, you know? The whole reason why everyone is kind of the way they are is because Scott's there. And because Scott's there, everyone's not living up to their full expectations. But once Scott leaves, everyone kind of lives up to their higher expectations. And I gotta say, that's why I love this show so much, is because they got Scott. Scott sucks. If you watch the movie, it's very... I mean, the whole film is basically about Scott and how bad he sucks. Like, the ending battle is just him being evil and all that, you know? And he doesn't get the gal at the end. He doesn't get anything at the end because he just sucks. But he learns a lesson that he does suck. He needs to change. And that's kind of what this show kind of explores, like how bad Scott sucks. And I gotta say, I really enjoy that. They got the point of Scott Pilgrim. Unlike a lot of other franchises that try to do the same thing, this one gets it. And I gotta say that they keep it. They keep it really nice. It's also this episode where it kind of puts everything together and it's just like, oh yeah, this is the reason why everything is kind of the way it is, because they're trying to deconstruct the narrative here. They're trying to do something new while trying to deconstruct the narrative and all that. The only reason why all these characters are now living up to their full expectations and all that is because Scott's gone. And because Scott's gone, everyone else can live and thrive. And you take Scott out of the thing here and kind of give him a shaking, like a slap on the face there for a couple times, and you just realize, oh yeah, he needs to wake up. And he does. As we'll see later on in the episode, actually. But yeah, honestly, very, very well done. This is kind of where you kind of see if you're a very efficient and exponential film reviewer, such as myself, at least I tried to, I don't want to be, high up, my britches up high or whatever, but you've seen a lot of stuff like I have. You kind of start to put the pieces together here, and you start to say, oh wait, there we go, that's how it's going, and I gotta say, this episode is where it's at for me. But anyway, we also find out that young Neil did not write the script, and it's actually written by someone 14 years in the future or something like that. And yeah, we find out Scott, oh yeah, he's back at the very end. He's back. And who killed Scott? But it's Scott. And we're going to go into the final 2 episodes here. And I gotta say, these, I'm liking what this show's cooking now. It's did a complete 180 in my opinion. I don't know what happened in the previous episode, but this one, nice. We got back to where it really started and all that. And you gotta say, I have, even through the worst episode and all that, I did not skip that theme song, man. I gotta just watch it all. I watched the theme song throughout, did not skip it through this entire show, this entire viewing. I cannot believe I'm saying that, because normally I would, but yeah, it is just, the theme song's so good. Oh man, I might just have to put it in my, I'm doing right now I'm doing like a TV theme song tier list also on top of everything else, but I'm thinking might just have to put that in this tier list here, I don't know. Oh, it's so good. But anyway though, guys, excuse me. What do you guys have to say on this episode of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off? Is it good? Does it suck? Does it turn your opinion all around on the show? You kind of see where I'm getting at here. What do you guys think? Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. Comment and let me know. More vids coming your way. And hey, take care, guys. Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to another episode recap of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. This one is the penultimate episode to Scott to Pilgrim. A take on Too Fast, Too Furious, if you catch my drift there. But anyway, this one is Scott's kind of, face slap, if you will. Like his face slap episode that kind of explains where Scott is, how Scott needs to be, and kind of gives him the whole face slap type of deal that we were talking about in the last episode recap and review. If you guys need a catch up, just I guess watch that one, But anyway, what goes on in this one? Well, we find out exactly what happened, how Scott kind of quote unquote died, but didn't quite die, of course, because the name of the show is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, and you can't really have Scott Pilgrim Takes Off without Scott Pilgrim. so he can't really die. But yeah, there's that. Anyway, we find out the history of the future of Scott with old Scott. Yes, a double Scott. Old Scott, someone who hasn't really learned his lesson and all that. Absolutely gold. My gosh, look, and it's played by Will Forte. And listen, I'm not the biggest Will Forte fan. I mean, he's done some good stuff. I think the first season or two of The Last Man on Earth, that's actually a pretty decent show. But, you know, then it starts to get a little old. Some things he just goes a little too hard in a few places. But this one I like. I like his performance here. He does a really good old Scott here. Okay, I gotta say. Nice touch. But anyway, we find out that, yeah, Scott won in the previous, round of whatever, which kind of makes the movie and the comic kind of canon, whichever one you want to put in here. It leaves it vague enough for it to kind of, put whatever you want into this particular rendition, I guess. I think it's more along the lines with the comics, but I think you can kind of put the movie in here as well, but you can't really put both of them because they kind of do kind of separate things a little bit. But anyway, so what happened? So, as we previously mentioned, the twins made a robot who's vegan, made a portal to the past to get young Scott into the future. And old Scott kind of lays down everything. So the events of the comics / movie, whichever one you want to prefer, kind of happened. It happened. He won. And he actually got to marry Ramona. But they get divorced. Because, yes, Scott, the show perfectly examines Scott's character. And Scott does in fact suck. So good going. Just thumbs up right there. Beautiful. Anyway, we find out that Scott really, in the past 14, 15 years or whatever, hasn't really changed at all. He still has a band with the twins because, he has to have a band with the twins or whatever. He has to have a band, but this time it's with the twins, I guess. But anyway, he still lives with Wallace. He still crashes with Wallace and all that. He doesn't have anything else by himself. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have anything. All he's got is his band, and he lives with Wallace, and that's it. His life is basically almost the exact same. And now, since he's old, he's a loser. Which, I gotta say, another awesome thing here, because Scott does in fact suck. And this show, if you show him not progressing, like many people kind of think they would be, if, they decide to be in a band or whatever, and they think Scott's the hero or whatever. Just imagine Scott staying like this forever. Yeah, he's a loser. Which, yeah, he is. If he does keep on doing this, he doesn't mature or grow, he's going to be a loser. And he is. Also, I gotta say, I love Old Wallace. Old Wallace is pretty epic, as is Wallace in this entire show. I don't know what they did with Wallace. They just really let him flow, Maybe they let Kieran Culkin kind of do his thing. I don't know what they did, but hey, it works. Let me tell you, okay? It absolutely works. But anyway, though, we talked to old Ramona and all that, who, after the whole shindig happened, she implanted we find out that she's the one that actually went back in time and put the scripts of Scott Pilgrim's life, I guess, into young Neil's computer and all that, which, after hearing that, both Scotts are kind of like, oh, shoot, you did that? Interesting. It's like, she still loves him, but he needs to grow up and mature. He doesn't grow up and mature. He's just staying the way he is, But, surprisingly enough, this isn't necessarily her doing. It's also old Neil's memoir that he wrote, which I gotta say, they use old young Neil, which I gotta say, nice touch. You know, they got the comedy down. They got the comedy down in these episodes. You know, it's dark, but it's hilarious, okay? They don't let up on the comedy whatsoever. But yeah. But yeah, they bring, I guess Ramona also brings Scott back to the past and all that, but old Scott's still, you know, trying to be his old timey-wimey self, just being all like, hey, you gotta let Ramona go, you know? Don't let Ramona do her thing and all that, or else I'm not taking you back to the future. But old Ramona does take him back to the future. Or take him back to the past, whatever it is, I don't know. Back to the future, back to the past, I'm kind of getting discombobulated now, whatever. Losing my voice. Also, my apologies. Anyway, though, this is the episode also that we kind of get the wrap-up, you know? Like previously mentioned, Scott does get that, you know, slap across the face and like saying, hey, you suck, Scott. You gotta grow. You gotta mature. So, what's the first thing he does, basically, when he gets there? He tells him what happens, and then he goes over to the knives and was like, hey, listen, I should probably not date you because you're a high schooler, and I'm like 22, 21, something like that. It's not really looking favorable upon us. I also used you. I'm sorry. You know, that whole thing, kind of be mature and all that. And she's actually a little bit more mature than he is, because if I found out that my significant other was older than me and also, you know, dating someone else, I'd be kind of mad. But she actually takes it in stride, you know. I gotta say, it's done very, very well. Also, Ramona and Scott, they still got some connectivity, even though there's a little bit of a you know, a little bit of whatever still there, but, you know, it's still very nice and very well done. Yeah, there's some baggage, but they still want to give it a try, you know? She's done all this stuff, trying to get Scott back. She still wants to have a go at it, you know? I gotta say, very nice, well done. But, unfortunately, we gotta figure out what's behind the force field and all that, because there's a force field behind them and they can't kiss, they can't do whatever they need to do, you know, so they gotta figure out who's behind the force field. So they gotta go to Gideon's play that he's performing and all that, and yeah, that's where they're going, because all the evil exes are there. So who's the person that puts the force field upon Ramona? We don't know until the next episode. And you know what? Chef's kiss. This is a really, really great episode. If you are, you know, just kind of saying, where the hell is Scott in Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, this is the episode for you, okay? This kind of really just takes everything from the previous season of this show and applies it full hard into this episode with Scott in particular. Like I said, it is a complete slap across the face for Scott's character, and I gotta say, it is very well done. They got it. They got it. Anyway, though, guys, what do you think of this episode? Does it rock? Does it suck? How else would you describe Scott's character going from 0 to 100 in, like, the matter of an episode? I personally really enjoy it, but what do you guys think? Why don't you comment and let me know? Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell. More vids coming your way, and hey, take care, guys. Ladies and gents, welcome to the final episode of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, Episode 8, The World versus Scott Pilgrim. Oh, beautiful. It's just, this is literally the best title of this entire show, I gotta say. It's simple, yet to the points, and that's the first good thing I gotta say about this episode, because holy crap, what a fabulous episode. This is, without a doubt, the best episode of the entire series. And I say the whole series because I don't think we're going to get a season 2, but we'll get to it when we get to it. Anyway, so what happens? So we find out that we go to the play. We find how each and every ex has grown and matured to the point where they don't care about Scott and Ramona anymore, which is hilarious, I gotta say. And Scott's just like, what? Huh? Really? Okay. Very interesting, but come to find out, it's none of them, and they all get transported to the really far future with even older Scott. Yes, not just old Scott, even older Scott, because he denied, trying to separate himself from Ramona. He now has to take matters into his own hands, and he has to destroy everyone. And he is super hyper powered. This is where the anime really shines, with all the anime type of rendition of fights and all that type of stuff. This is really, really where it shines. I gotta say though too, this whole episode, I mean, every episode has great, action and all that, but this is the episode that everyone is waiting for when they didn't think they were waiting for it, but this is the one that they're waiting for. Everyone versus even older Scott is just absolutely awesome. But also apparently it's not enough, all the quote unquote evil exes fight him, but they all get transported back to the future or something, or back to the past, whatever it is, I don't know. They get transported back, and it's just Scott and Ramona fighting evil Scott. And then we find even older Ramona coming over, and she's like, listen, Scott, I loved you even when we separated, but I hate what you become with this, Again, more existential drama here, and I'm loving it, It's kind of deconstructing Scott's character again, and I'm loving it, Don't be like this, Scott. But anyway, then Ramona, young Ramona, old Ramona, they merge into one. They take on evil Scott, and yeah, they find Scott and Ramona finally kiss and all that. It's a great deal, all that type of stuff. They go back to the play, and we find out that Patel, he gives back Lucas's assets and all that because he hates the stress and all that type of stuff, which I gotta say, that's a little anticlimactic in my opinion. It was a little bit of a change, but whatever. Whatever. Anyway, so yeah, everything's kind of back to the way it was-ish, but the character growth is still happening here, where Steven and Knives kind of get their own record deal. They write their own songs and all that type of stuff in the industry, which I gotta say, it's nice, just quality platonic friends making songs. You know what? I'm here for it. I'm here for it. They're also, part of Sex Bomb and all that with Ramona. No, not Ramona. Envy, Scott's evil ex, kind of collabing with them as well, which I gotta say, nice, very well done. Matthew continues to work as a stage actor. Lucas takes up work as a barista and all that. Roxy helps Todd train to maintain his vegan powers. And the twins continue to work in robotics. Wallace, my man, finds a man in Paris. There you go. I mean, live your best life. And yeah, Scott and Ramona kind of continue doing their thing, not knowing where the future will bring or hold, but still growing as people. Very well done. Very, very well done. I gotta say, this is an amazing show. Overall, this show is spectacular. There was one filler episode, but dare I say it, this is just high-end quality, man. This is just high-end quality. You would think that with the bigger celebs in this show, that they would be, not really all that much to do with them. Just having maybe like a scene or two in this show and that's it. But no, they're actually in quite a hefty bit of this show, which I did not even expect that to happen. And the anime fights are truly spectacular. The the animation is awesome. The music is top tier. I didn't even know that I needed Till the Sun Goes Down or whatever, that song. I'm Alright, whatever that song is called. I play that unironically now, okay? It's that good. I didn't even think I needed that, but it's that good, okay? Oh my gosh, the Canadian grunge, my gosh. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. And I love the fact that we dive into each and every character, like as they're real people. I'm loving it, Is it slow sometimes, especially in the beginning? Yes, but overall, amazing show. They did not have to do this, but they did it in strides. And yeah, it could have gone the other way real fast, especially in some areas. But I gotta say, I like the restraints. I like how, there's some people these days that consider Scott to be the hero and all that, and he's actually a good fellow. He is not. And I like how this show kind of shows, yeah, Scott sucks, but we all kind of suck in our own way. We gotta just learn and grow. That's what humans do. That's what all people do, In that way, we can look upon Scott and just be like, yeah, he's actually a hero. He's someone to look up to, but only in the way that we all can mature. We all can grow. Don't make the same mistakes as Scott did, but we can make mistakes, but we can always learn from them and we can always grow, that type of thing. So, yeah, overall, a fabulous show. If I were to rate this show, which it's not official, I'm not officially rating the show, I'd probably give it, though, maybe a 9 out of 10. It's that great. I cannot believe I'm saying that about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. But also, though, there's an end credit scene where, there's, who is it? My gosh, I keep on forgetting. Gordon and Julie, yeah. They both kind of think what they can do to, hurt Scott and Ramona and all that, but that... listen, okay? I do not believe, and I haven't looked this up, but I do not believe that this show gets a season 2 in any sort of imagination. Netflix, there's many different reasons as to why. I won't really dive into them all right here. I'll just give you, just right off the top of my head, just a few reasons. Number one, Netflix has canceled far more for far less, okay? There's no... I don't know. I cannot see Netflix greenlighting a season 2 of this show with... No. I cannot see that because it's actually good. So, yeah, they're not going to greenlight season 2. It's not cheap to make. Let's put it that way. Also, that fact that it's not cheap to make, how are you going to get every character back? How are you going to get all these actors and actresses back to do another season. You know, it's kind of, you know, Chris Evans is doing his thing. He's not on top of the world like he was with Captain America, but he's doing his thing. Brie Larson, she's doing her thing.